Your day moves fast. Your news should too. That's why there's a new and improved Wish TV app bringing you more local news, breaking alerts, live streaming, weather forecasts, radar, and Indiana sports all in one place. Customize your news feed to see the stories that matter most to you and get the information you need when you need it. Download the new and improved Wish TV app today on iOS or Android and take News 8 with you everywhere.
Welcome to our Champions of Children podcast, Removing Barriers, Creating Opportunity. We are Child Advocates, an Indiana nonprofit that has served more than 100,000 children in the child welfare system and in the community. We seek justice, opportunity, and well-being for each of them. We are lawyers, social workers, educators, and mental health experts, so our conversations will be comprehensive with one goal in mind: to help build a better future for every child, including the most vulnerable. It starts with us, and the time is now. Hello, I'm Angela Kane, Chief Communications Officer for Child Advocates in Indianapolis and the host and producer of its podcast, Champions of Children, Removing Barriers, Building Brighter Futures. And we're excited to launch a new podcast that we think will resonate with everyone who cares about children, including your own, and everyone who wants to invest time in learning how to help them overcome obstacles to their success in life. Child Advocates is a nonprofit in Indiana, and our programs center on two critical areas: helping children succeed in school and helping children who have faced abuse or neglect in their homes. We provide free educational liaisons for children who are struggling in school, which is the focus of this podcast debut. Their work helps children excel and has even decreased suspensions and expulsions for children and youth. Their expertise and advice will resonate with any parent anywhere. And we provide attorneys to serve older children who have been placed in the child welfare system. And some of our legal services work is groundbreaking. We offer the only free in-house lawyers in Indiana who provide counsel for children, attorneys who fight for their rights in court. Also in our podcast, we will have important conversations about mental health issues for families and children with one of our experts and others as we address the overall health of families. Today, we are focusing on our Education Liaison program. Our Education Liaisons offer free, individualized assistance to families to help their children who are struggling in school with academic, behavioral, or social challenges. We will discuss why Child Advocates first launched this program years ago as part of our work serving children in the child welfare system in Marion County, and how we now offer these Education Liaison services to help any child or youth in grades K through 12 across Indiana overcome challenges and have better outcomes in school. Also, you'll discover how you can fill out a referral for your family to take part in our free Educational Liaison program. Here is a sneak peek of today's critical conversation.
Well, quite often it's parents who want the best for their children, but they don't know enough about how does my child learn? What does my child need? We help parents kind of walk through that and help them start learning how to ask the right questions about their child. Sometimes they really have children with special needs and they're unaware of that.
And we will discuss bullying at school and another factor impacting children's success.
So you think about a family with two adults or a family with one adult, and they both work jobs and they get home and they're tired and they just don't have the time always to follow up on how their child is doing at school. And pretty soon they're in a bad situation that they just don't know how to get themselves out of. We come in and we're able to bridge that gap.
Now, joining us today, our CEO, Phyllis Armstrong, and three of our educational liaisons, Kay Christensen, Leah Ward, and Julie Bakhorn. Thank you, ladies, for joining us. Good to have you all with us.
Absolutely.
We will begin the conversation with our CEO, who started leading our nonprofit about 2 years ago. Phyllis was a child advocate's attorney for more than 20 years, providing her legal expertise to stand up for countless children in child welfare cases. She helped to secure a safe home and a better future for many children who faced abuse or neglect in their home. She is an amazing child advocate, so I'm just going to clap for her right away first. And Phyllis, tell us why our Education Liaison program was birthed out of our child welfare work at first, and why you think it was a critical part of serving foster children in the system when it first began.
Sure. And I think it's been definitely more than a decade now since we started the work. And I think as we learned many things in our services of children and child welfare, there are all kinds of gaps for children in the system. And in particular, educational gaps were significant. Children who had endured abuse or neglect before they landed in the system, that of course is why they were landing in the system. But then while child welfare involved, would often endure numerous placement changes. And with placement changes came school changes. And so it was compounded, I think, educational struggles. And the system wasn't really good about even acknowledging that loss, much less addressing it. And so that we formed a program, like I said, about 10 years ago to provide educational advocacy for children who were child welfare involved, providing an experienced education professional, whether that is a former teacher, administrator, and or school social worker who had experience in education and dealing with children who had academic struggles for various reasons. And we provided them an individual advocate who helped to address the learning loss that they're experiencing and all the underlying kind of issues related to it, and helped them to achieve academic success and get on track to do that if in the time that they were child welfare involved. And that we shifted away from that work in specific to child welfare probably almost 5 years ago, and broadened our service offering to children anywhere in Indiana. I think that the majority we serve right now are still in Marion County, but we are serving numerous counties across the state for families who have children who are struggling with social emotional issues and that have experienced academic struggles as a result of that.
It's so important, the work that we've been doing now for several years, and we'll talk to all of our education liaisons as well. Kay Christensen has been an education liaison for several years. So first, Kay, tell us what the Education Liaison Program offers children and youth in grades K through 12. How does it work?
I think studies and personal experience have confirmed that abuse and neglect, trauma, mental health issues, lack of parental involvement, and as well as the pandemic are some of the factors that can impact a student's success in the school setting. Our program offers a collaborative approach in order to help a struggling student. We work side by side with parents and students, involving service providers and school staff in order to develop an educational plan that will accommodate and support the students' specific and unique needs. By developing positive partnerships, we believe that the student can achieve better educational outcomes. When we initially start, after a referral is made, we will start by contacting the parent within 24 to 72 hours and learning what the concerns of the parents are. And so that then we kind of, after a discussion with the parent, then we make a plan to meet with school officials, involve service providers and others that the parent feels is critical to that mission.
And it really is a collaboration. So if you want to talk a little bit more about that, it's not just our educational liaisons. There's a whole team, school, et cetera.
Yeah. So after we make the initial contact with the parent, and then we get, it usually involves a school meeting, and we'll ask any teachers or principals, deans, whoever might be involved with the student's educational program to be involved in the meeting, as well as anybody that the parent feels is important. The parent can have family members or others that they feel know their child very well. And then we attempt to come up with a plan to, again, address the specific needs of that student.
I love that it's each individual students. There's no one size fits all, although there are things that can work. So discuss the focus on social emotional learning through our program. What is that for those who are not familiar with it, and how can it help students succeed?
Okay. Well, we find that many children struggle with regulating their emotional responses, especially if they have experienced a lot of trauma. We begin with that premise that all behaviors are a form of communication. acting out, disrupting the classroom environment, verbal aggression, physical aggression, and withdrawal behaviors can be a manifestation of a child's mental health issues, such as anxiety or depression. Social and emotional learning is the process of developing skills like understanding and managing emotions, building relationships, and making responsible decisions. The CASTLE framework,
You want to say what that stands for? Go ahead.
it's an acronym for Collaborative for Academic, Social, and Emotional Learning. It was a nonprofit organization that helps schools develop appropriate social emotional learning curriculum. Their goal is to establish high quality evidence based SEL programs, but in preschool through high school. And the 5 core competencies, according to CASTLE, are self awareness, relationship skills, responsible decision making, self awareness, and self management. And we find that the majority of the schools that we work with have SEL curriculums in place. Many of these the schools have used this CASTLE framework in establishing their SEL programs. So if a student is exhibiting significant behavioral issues at school, we work with school staff to establish an appropriate behavioral plan that addresses their unique needs. We will usually request that the school conduct a functional behavioral assessment to help determine the function of the student's behavior or what specifically they are trying to communicate. For example, are they trying to avoid or escape an unpleasant situation? Are they seeking attention? And we also want to confirm that the student is involved in receiving an appropriate SEL curriculum that the school has established, as well as using other school services, such as meeting with a school social worker or engagement with on-site behavioral mental health services that the school might provide.
Well, that's important. That's the underbelly of all the work that we're doing. And I'm so sorry that you've got a bit of a cold. I just want to point that out.
I apologize.
No, it's important that you're here. Everybody can understand. Sometimes we just aren't 100%. And more importantly, take care of yourself and take a drink, do whatever you need during this conversation, but take a rest. No worries. And well, I said take a rest, but I am going to ask you, go ahead and take your drink. While you're doing that, why did you join this critical work, Kay? And what impact have you seen on children and families?
Throughout my career, both in a residential setting and in the public school setting, I've witnessed children struggling in school. They struggle to fit in or keep up or feel safe, both physically and emotionally. They struggle with a lack of academic confidence and low self-esteem. I believe in the potential of every child and feel grateful and privileged to help each child begin to reach that potential.
Oh, I love that. And do you have a success story you want to share from a student before we move on?
I do, real quick. I had a student that had been expelled both in the 7th and 8th grade. The caregiver of this student had contacted me during the summer of the 8th and 9th grade year. So this young student was getting ready to go into the 9th grade, and she was very concerned about the probability of her child again being expelled in high school. So I was able to contact the special ed director of that school system, and together I requested a meeting at the school prior to the start of school so that we could develop a plan for reentry, a transition plan that included tutoring and some additional supports for her. We were able to provide some additional online programs because she had missed so much instruction in the 7th and 8th grade. So we came up with the plan. It was a gradual plan, but it's worked. She only had 2 suspensions in her 9th grade year, no expulsions. And now she is in the 10th grade and has almost caught up with her peers in terms of being on track for a diploma.
Wow, that's wonderful. I mean, that's just one of many stories.
So fingers crossed she'll get that diploma.
I love it. I love it. There's so many stories you all can share. I want you now to officially rest. And we appreciate you.
Okay, thank you.
So now we're going to move to you, Leah. All right, Leah, please share your background, which is in education, and tell us how long you've been an education liaison and why you chose this work.
Sure. I have been, my background is an educator, as you said, for 30 plus years, and I taught everything from pre K through graduate school. I was a school principal for a while. I also was a leader of a nonprofit which helped parents prepare their kids for kindergarten. So I've been doing work in this area for a long time. And so why an EL? It was a place where I could bring all of my prior experiences together um, and really help children and parents get on get on the right track when they requested my assistance. The parents want their children to have great outcomes, and it was just a place where I could come and assist them in doing that. I've been doing this work now as an educational liaison for about 8 years now.
Oh, that's great. And we're so glad to have you. What are some of the unique struggles and obstacles you see in school for children, including some of the children we serve who are in the child welfare system who had to leave their home due to abuse or neglect?
Well, one of the things is that parents, they don't know the education system. And you would assume, having been a student, hadn't gone through school, that they would know how this system works. And many of them just don't, are, are they're hesitant to engage in it because they've not had the best experiences. So that's a struggle. Sometimes they wait a little too late to start asking questions or to become involved when their children are have demonstrated that they're developing some issues. Another thing that really happens when a child is in the child welfare system, and we've already alluded to this, is that the inconsistency. They're going from home to home. That home instability ends up being school instability quite often. And with that instability, then you're going to get gaps in learning. We're going to have times where we could have maybe identified a special need with the child that we didn't get a chance to do because by the time we're getting ready to do it, they're off to another school or off to another family. And so instability is huge with that population. The children that we're primarily working with now are typically in their homes with their parents, and they haven't recently experienced that kind of instability, but we're still trying to make up for many gaps in learning.
Well, most of the students we have served now have never been in the child welfare system, especially today. So what obstacles do those children most often face? What are some of the common issues you help them work through as an education liaison today?
Well, quite often it's parents who want the best for their children, but they don't know enough about how does my child learn? What does my child need? What programs could encourage their learning? Do they need to be in a program that encourages self-discovery or one that is more rigid or more structured? They just don't know. And so, in their effort to try to find the best school for their children, sometimes they create the bouncing around from school to school, from neighborhood school to charter school to, from one to the other, just trying to find out what's best for their kids, but may not know the right questions to ask. So that is part of an issue. And I think that we kind of help parents kind of walk through that and help them start learning how to ask the right questions about their child. Sometimes they really have children with special needs and they're unaware of that. It could be learning needs, it could be social emotional needs. They're not aware of the supports that might be available in a school to help their child. Sometimes it's they're not aware that their child may need an educational evaluation that might lead to an IEP, or they might have a special need that would require a 504 plan. Just saying these words to them could be just so foreign, and they just need someone to help break down that language and help them understand, what does this look like in the school system? What does this mean for my child? And that's what we do. We help them kind of walk through all of those different possible scenarios and find out what's best for their kiddo.
It is such critical work. How have you seen our work change children's lives? If you want to add anything more to that, what are some of the outcomes, basically?
Well, and actually, well, especially Kay, talked about this so much, and Phyllis talked about this as well. We do not work in isolation. Our role is to work collaboratively. We work with parents, with schools, and we try to develop that understanding through our conversation with schools, our conversations with parents. I recently went into a meeting and somebody said, "Are you on the child's side or the school side?" And that really bothered me. And I said, "I'm on the child's side." And it kind of helped him kind of stop and like, ooh, maybe I didn't phrase that quite right. But that's the thought. There are two different camps. And there really isn't. There's one camp, and it's the child's camp, and that's what we're on, and we teach that to the parent and to the school. We model it, and we ask for input from both sides, and we give opportunities for those conversations to develop and evolve. So when we walk away, which we will eventually, we hope that there is a great relationship established between that family, that parent, that child, and that school, that they understand that we're all working together for the best outcome of the child.
I love that. And some of the outcomes you've talked about, expulsions and things. What has changed in some of the punishments that sometimes would happen to the children you serve?
Yeah, because there has not been a clear understanding of the genesis of the behaviors that lead to suspensions or expulsions, that no one's taken the time to kind of really step back and say, how can we prevent some of these things from happening so that the child is better engaged in the learning, in the school, better engaged with his not the siblings, their classmates, how they can do that better so that they can avoid some of the behaviors that lead to suspension or expulsion. I think we're really good at that. We're really good at going in and helping those schools look at, do you have a check-in, check-out system for this child? Do they have an adult in the school that they can really go to and have conversations with, a trusted person, so that we can get ahead of the behaviors that may result in suspension? So we'll have a child who's been suspended. I've had them 7, 8 times in a school year. And because we've put these things in place, we see the suspensions go way down.
That's great.
We're getting rid of the suspensions. We know that multiple suspensions can lead to expulsion. So if you're getting the suspensions down, you're preventing expulsions. Sometimes we have to be more engaged in preventing those expulsions. Let's say, for instance, the child is a child who has been identified with special needs and has had several suspensions. Then we have meetings that are called manifestation determination meetings, where we go in and we try to help the school understand that perhaps this is just an outcome of the child's disability, and that expelling them from school is really not going to help them get on top of that. And it's going to create more problems. They're going to get further behind in school and all of that. And so we try to work with schools to come up with alternative plans to expulsion. I think we're pretty successful in doing that. And our data demonstrates that we're pretty successful in preventing those expulsions. We're still concerned about keeping the child safe, keeping the school safe, because all of the children have to be safe, and also keeping the educational component moving. We don't want to create additional problems for children who have already demonstrated they have some issue with staying in school. We want to keep them educated and keep them continuing to be educated. Another thing that we do sometimes, if a child, no matter how hard we try, that child ends up being expelled, then we work really closely with the school to make sure educational opportunities are still available to them. Or if possible, if we can shorten the time that those children are expelled from school and get them back into school more quickly.
That is so critical. I mean, I'm thinking of parents who are listening to this podcast thinking, thank God there's someone who helps dig deeper and figure out what the issues are and helps give our children a chance. Is there a story of success you have had with students that you'd like to share?
I have one I really I just went to a school and ran into an administrator who said, I remember you. And then they said, oh, yeah, you helped us with this particular child. And to give you a little background, this kiddo he's autistic and is nonverbal. We created so much frustration for him and for the school that he was engaged, that he was going to. And the behaviors were significant. We were talking about kicking in walls, throwing items across the room. It was dangerous. It was a dangerous situation.
Mm-hmm.
And we tried to bring in different people to assist the school in working with this individual. They weren't real open to having some of the behaviors who work with children with autism come in and help them do some things differently to help this child. So we had to do something different. We went on a search for a school that would be more open and would be willing to come alongside this family. And we found one.
That's great.
We found a school, and after about 2 weeks of this child doing everything she possibly could to get kicked out, because that's the pattern. I act up, I get to go home. And so that pattern was broken. No matter what you do, we're going to keep you here. We're going to educate you, and you're going to learn to love it.
I love that.
And
Don't give up.
got to a point where this child would just jump out of the car to run to the school to be there. And the child continues to do extremely well. So it was great to hear from this administrator who could give me an update. And this has been going on for about 2 years. So it was a great update.
Oh,
Yeah.
that is a wonderful story. And it just shows what you all will do to make a difference in a child's life and literally change their future. That is what happens with some of the work you're doing. Julie, would you give us your background in education and tell us why you chose to join Child Advocates to be an educational liaison in the last few years?
Sure. I've been with Child Advocates coming up on 2 years, and I've joined from working in the public school system. So I was a teacher for 10 years and then an administrator, principal of both elementary schools and high school. So I sort of bring that type of knowledge to the job and can see sort of the struggles that families are having with both their preschool and kindergarten kids all the way up to, juniors and seniors who are less interested in graduating and more interested in playing and using that knowledge to try to get them on track so that we can get a graduate. So that's some of my background.
So what are some of the main obstacles you often find yourself helping students with?
As I think about that question, I think about two main things. And one of them is time. I feel like time is something that none of us have enough of. And schools in particular don't have enough time to collaborate and talk about a particular student who might need some help. And so they go without receiving the help they need until we show up. And that time also affects the family. So you think about a family with 2 adults or a family with 1 adult, and they both work jobs and they get home and they're tired and they just don't have the time always to follow up on how their child is doing at school. And so I think that creates just a cycle of not knowing where to start to help. I hope things are going well, but I'm not sure. And pretty soon they're in a bad situation that they just don't know how to get themselves out of. And a lot of it just boils down to time. If they had the time to do it, I think they would. I think they'd be more involved. And we come in and we're able to bridge that gap. I've got families that just have a question that they need to ask, and I have families who need me to do some research for them because they just don't have the time to do it themselves. And then you think about, we always request the school records, and I read through all those thoroughly, and I go through them with the parents and sort of give them a summary of what's in there. Again, trying to respect their time and give them those big bullet points that they need when we meet with the school. The second thing that I feel like is huge is just the knowledge piece. You assume, like Leah said, you went to school, you kind of know how it works, but most people don't understand the processes and the policies that go on in a school and who to navigate to, who to get to quickly to get some help. And like one of the other liaisons said, sometimes, they're not answering the phone for parents, which I don't understand why they don't do that. It just creates a bigger problem. But when we call, we usually get a response, and we can sort of cut through that red tape and really work on what that family needs in providing them that sort of access point with schools. And then all three of us provide a lot of resources to families. And so, on their first call, we can send them packets of information that they can read through and they can keep on their computer so that they can refer back to that often. For instance, right now there's a $1,000 grant available to families of kids grades 3 through 8 who have failed the iLearn assessment. And so they can apply for that and get that. But families don't know that because they're not reading things on the Department of Education website like we are. And so I think that's another thing that goes under that knowledge of schools, is us just providing them with resources that they need to be successful for their child.
I've heard some say that our education liaison program benefits everyone surrounding the child, not just the child.
Well, I think that, of course, it always helps the family. I think when your child is being successful in school, things at home are much better. And I remember a friend of mine telling me, a mother is only as happy as her saddest child. And so if your child's not doing well in school, it impacts that family greatly. And so as we work through some of the difficulties in school, I think it grows that family into being closer because they're all working together now. They're collaborating on what would be good strategies for that child. But often I think it grows the teacher as well, because we often see sort of these cookie cutter approaches to creating strategies for kids, where I'll read an individual education plan and it'll have the same 5 accommodations that I see in every plan across the state of Indiana. And so working with the school to come up with what will work specifically for that child, I think helps grow the teacher and the other staff members at that building.
Well, I'm sure that's the case. This is just good to hear. What is a success story that you've witnessed after children have the help of our educational liaisons, all of you?
Well, one of my favorites is a youngster who I started working with around the kindergarten and first grade level, is in a situation where he's been in multiple foster placements and is now in a placement with a gal who is working to adopt him. And so we've had just outrageous behaviors, climbing on things, throwing things, hitting, spit, just anything you could do to get away from the adult in charge. And, that trauma this child has been through, we really see it play out in the classroom. Well, that child is now part of a RAP team. So they've got a RAP facilitator, they've got a therapist, they've got a social worker, they've got somebody working on skills with the child. There's a person who works specifically with the adopting parent. And now that child has calmed way down. Now he still has some issues here and there, but he's being far more successful. And hopefully things will continue to improve for him so that he's in a specialized program right now. But our goal is going to be to begin transitioning him into a regular classroom with support. So he's come a long way, put in a lot of hard work.
Just one of many wonderful stories. And for parents who are listening right now, discuss how they might know if their child could use our free education liaison services and share the next steps they can take as well. How do they get help?
Well, everybody is eligible. So if you just have a question you need to ask, or if you work at a facility where you've got a question, you can call us and we will help you with that. But if your child is not being successful in school, or if you feel like your child is being bullied at school, or if your child's not being seen, if you see behaviors of your child change at home, you might want to reach out to us and help us get involved with you to help support what's going on with your child in school. But we accept everybody from preschool age, about 3, and then all the way through high school. And if you are a student with an IEP, an individualized education program, we can keep working with you and the school will keep you until the year you turn 22. And so we do have a few kids who we are still helping. And then many of the colleges now are accepting IEPs and working to get some strategies in place to help. So we even sort of help them get placed and work with the offices at the university for them to be more successful.
For all of you, we're just going to do this sort of everybody weigh in who wants to. We can have deeper conversations in a future podcast where we break down more educational issues. But I want to ask this. For parents, what are some of the signs their child is struggling in school that may not be so obvious, especially if students hide their grades from parents, for example, specifically the older students, and those who just sort of keep what's happening, even being afraid to admit they might be bullied at school or picked on, especially the boys?
As Julie said, you have to look for a change in behavior quite often. So if you have a child who all of a sudden just sleeps a lot, they go to their room, close the door, sleep. They're lethargic. You may have children who are short-tempered at home, who previously have been pretty easy to get along with. Any changes in behavior can often signal something is different at school, or there's a problem at school. So I think we just have to be aware and try to pay attention to what's going on with our kiddos. As Julie was saying, time. Sometimes we just have to sit down and carve out a little bit of time and talk to our kids and ask them straight up, what's going on with you?
Love that.
And often they will be very honest with us.
That's good, because I think we get so busy, it's just typical teen behavior, when there could be so many underlying things affecting their schoolwork and their lives. So also for all of you, what do you see as some of the other challenges to children succeeding in school today overall? Is it harder, for example, even to keep their attention with all of the technology and their phones? And sometimes is it harder to keep their attention today when they're so socialized to social media and want things a certain way presented to them? Are there any other things that could cause some troubles for kids in school that parents should be aware of, and even some of the teachers who are listening?
Well, I think you're right. I think the attention of kids has certainly shifted. When they're at home, they could be playing a video game, listening to music at the same time, and texting and talking with friends. And they seem to be able to manage all that. Then they get in school and we say, you need to sit in that chair, not move, and listen to me talk all day long. And that's tough.
Good point.
I think when I think about my educational experience and what's happening with kids now, there are definitely some issues that are all wrapped around technology and the use of technology at school and keeping kids on whatever website or whatever program you're using. Parents are really working hard at home to get kids to put technology down and go to bed, put technology down and come to the dinner table, put technology down. And they're afraid to really be tough with them about that. But I encourage my parents really limit their technology use, because they're very limited at school. And so I think that's a huge thing. And then for high school and middle school kids, the vaping piece has been really tough. Teachers and principals don't know what to do about it because they don't realize the kids have it. You don't necessarily smell an odor when they come out of the bathroom or they're in the hallway. And from administrators I've talked to, that is becoming a real issue. Technology and vaping is a real problem right now.
Wow, I'm glad you're saying that, because I think there are probably some parents listening who aren't even really aware that their child might be involved in some of these things, especially the vaping part. Now, some closing thoughts from you. What have each of you learned from the children? Some who are overcoming trauma in their families or facing other challenges while trying to succeed in school. What lessons have they taught you?
I would say the one thing that I've learned from children that I've worked with is that they are very resilient. They are capable of weathering the storm and getting through it, and that all kids want to do well. they are struggling in school and don't know how to do that. But when you take the time to sit and talk with a family, you realize that that whole family wants that child to do well. And they are all doing the very best they can for that child. And if they knew better, they do better. And so when we work with them and help them improve their knowledge, they're more equipped now to help their child. So for me, it's that resilience piece that these kids just never give up.
Anybody else have thoughts before we move on?
Well, I will second everything Julie just said about a child's resilience. But I think some of the things that the schools have taught me is that I truly believe that every school wants to do the right thing for every child they serve. That's the premise I use when I go into a meeting, is that everybody there is there because they care about this child, and that schools do want to do what's right. Unfortunately, sometimes the school staff may not understand or be willing to develop appropriate programs, not because they are unwilling to, but because they may not have the resources or the staff. So I think the collaborative approach is just so important to helping students.
I think that's good. I'm so glad you shared that. And Phyllis, as our CEO, what is your long-term goal for the Education Liaison Program? And during giving season in particular, how important is it for us to get more support so that we can grow our program and serve even more children?
Support is absolutely essential. And as everyone is living right now in this time, it's challenging for everybody. I mean, funding is nearly scarce because there are a lot of folks in need of funding, a lot of nonprofits in particular, and but it takes that for sustainability. And I am hoping and planning for strategic, sustainable growth. As you hear, this is phenomenal work that our team does, and children and families are stronger for it. And we want to be able to share that and spread that to more, empowering, encouraging more parents and caregivers and how to navigate schools and their children's academic struggles now and in the future, and doing it wisely so that we're around for a very long time and serving longer. And we know that when children succeed in school, that not only are they the better for it, but their future and the community's future is brighter. And so we want to continue to make that real for everybody.
That's so true. And any closing thoughts before I let everybody go? Go ahead, Phyllis.
I would just say that if anybody is intrigued by this work, first of all, in need of this work, please go to our website. It's childadvocates with an S on the end, .net. We have a form on there that they can complete to inquire further about our services, and we would happily have a call with them to see if they just need a consultation or if they need active ongoing services. And for those who are listening and who want to support this work, you can certainly donate from our website as well, childadvocates with an S.net.
Perfect way to close. It is so good to have you all here to share your expertise and the details about our unique and life-changing Education Liaison Program. Thank you, Phyllis, Kay, Leah, and Julie. You all do amazing work for families each and every day, and I appreciate you, and so do the families you serve. Bravo. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You have been listening to our experienced team of education liaisons in our first podcast episode. You'll hear more of their wisdom and advice for any parent in future conversations as we work to give our children their best chances to succeed in school and in life. Again, go to childadvocates.net to learn more about our free education liaison services. You'll also find a referral form to fill out if you're seeking help for your child in Indiana. And while you're there, check out our legal services for children who are in the child welfare system. Also, spread the word. Share our podcast as we work together to seek justice, opportunity, and well-being for every child and youth in our schools, in our homes, and in our communities. We believe that every child deserves a champion, and that champion is you. Thank you for listening to our Champions of Children podcast, Removing Barriers, Creating Opportunities. Please subscribe today. We are a part of the All Indiana Podcast Network, And we believe that together we can create a better world for our children. It starts with us, and the time is now.